Welcome back, Buccaneers fans, to another episode of Hear the Cannons, presented by BucsGameday.com, Sports Illustrated one and only website strictly dedicated to your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My name is Caleb Skinner at CHS Noel on X. Along with me, as always, is our lead editor over at BucsGameday.com, River Wells. You can follow him on X at River H Wells as well. We appreciate you guys tuning in with us. If you guys are watching in over there on Facebook, we implore you to go over to YouTube, go ahead, comment, and subscribe on that episode for us.
We do.
Once you subscribe, turn on those notifications. That way you're notified anytime that we are going live, anytime that we are posting any videos or reels that we will have for you guys covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. With that being said, River, let's go ahead and jump into things. No game last week, we all know. But the one thing that did happen here early this week is on Tuesday, November 4th, there was a trade deadline yesterday. For those of you, can kind of trash me there in the comments, if you will, for forgetting it was just yesterday. But the trade deadline was yesterday at 4 p.m. Jason Light and company did something that, they normally don't do. I'm kidding. Obviously, they did exactly what we thought they were doing.
Same old stuff. Yeah.
Standing pat there at the trade deadline, not making any moves, for depth, not making any moves for draft capital, not making any moves for any star players either. We had talked last week a little bit about some candidates that they could potentially be going after. What do you think kind of swayed the opinion here for Jason Light and company, or was it an easy decision overall?
Well, I mean, when you look at his history, he's been the GM of the Bucs for 11 years. We talked about this. He's made one in-season trade in those 11 years. 2020, Steve McClendon, New York Jets, gave up a 6th for it and got a 7th back. So they like their depth right now. They like what they have. Jason Light, in particular, is very reverent of his draft picks. And I think philosophically, when you look at this team, that's how he built this team, right? He built it largely using those draft picks. And last year's draft, it's a little early to tell because they're rookies and we're only halfway through the year. But I mean, Mecca Ibuka, Tez Johnson, Jacob Parrish, Benjamin Morrison, Elijah Roberts is now starting over Logan Hall, and he was drafted in the 5th round, right? So they've got so many contributors early on from this draft that are killing it, and I think that's how Jason Light likes to build his team. And I would call him one of the best GMs in football. And when you compare him to Howie Roseman, who arguably could be the best GM in football, I mean, think about how different that approach is, right? Howie loves trades, constantly dealing picks. Jason Light hates them, likes to hold on to those potential players further down the line. So different philosophies of team building, and also sticking with what they have. They don't want to give up any picks. Already facing a lot of injuries this year, so they want to replace some of that quality depth and some of those players next year. Trading away a guy might not allow you to do that if you don't have those picks. So that's where I think they're all coming from. And despite some glaring holes at linebacker, a glaring hole at edge rusher, they decided to stay pat. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, not shocking by any means. I don't think if you're a Buccaneers fan, it really is the status quo, the MO. Typically how things go when Jason Light is heading the Buccaneers front office. So no real shock. Yeah, there are holes that could have been filled. Servassier Dennis, again, they're putting a lot of trust in him eventually becoming what they thought he was when they drafted him. He's kind of improved week by week. Played really strong there against the Saints. He had a good game there. So hopefully that's to be continued on here in the latter half of the season because they are going to need him. They're going to need him to stay healthy. Wide receiver they could have looked at. They didn't really go that direction. For Andy Reynolds, not really wanting to rent a guy when you can build on what you have in the room, specifically going into next year. So I don't mind it at all. I know a lot of Bucs fans probably would have liked to see something done at this point, and maybe in different areas in particular based on each other's opinions. But overall, nothing big. The Buccaneers probably are safe doing so. Ride out this season, see what you got heading into the offseason. Hopefully, a lot of people are going to be coming back. Real big eyes are going to be on, obviously, Mike Evans and Levante David, what they are going to be doing with their future, and so on and so forth. But continuing with guys that are still playing or haven't been playing and are on their way back to returning to the field. We're going to get into some injuries here, River, but the big one being today, Luke Goedeke returning to practice, obviously in a limited fashion. It was reported, so not fully, but he did look good out there, moving around very, very well. What are you hearing on Luke? Is there a possibility for his return? And what's that going to do for the Bucs offensive line against the Patriots, who, they could really use them because that offense was struggling there on the right side over the past few weeks leading up to the bye?
They seem pretty confident. I mean, Baker Mayfield said, like, if he comes back, that'll be great. But we talked to Graham Barton in the locker room, and he was like, yeah, we love to have him back, So they talk about it like it's a very real possibility that he comes back this week. So I would almost, kind of expect that to be the case. And if not, I can't imagine if Charlie Heck does go on Sunday, that it would be too long before Goedeke got back in action, right? So it seems like they're approaching this week with the very real possibility that he plays against the Patriots. And you're right. That would be a huge effector. I think of the 4 guys out, I mean, Goedeke, Irving, Godwin, and then Reddick, right? I think Goedeke's the most valuable player to come back out of those 4, personally, because that right side of the line with Charlie Heck and the revolving carousel at right guard. We asked Todd Bowles who's going to play right guard this week, and he's like, "Oh, we'll see." So that's huge because Heck's play affects the right guard next to you. The right guard next to you affects Heck's play, and Goedeke's had a lot more experience there, and he's played better football, and that would only help the right guard, and that would alleviate some of the concerns that you would have there, and then vice versa with Heck, right? Because Heck's been fairly poor, unfortunately, in pass coverage this whole year. So getting a player of that caliber back on that line could open up the run game. It could open up the pass protection for Baker Mayfield and allow him to do more things. It could allow Josh Grizzard to open up the playbook and with a little bit more time to operate, try some new stuff, right? Not having to have tight ends shipped too often, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's the biggest one, personally, with getting to come back. And it seems like there's a very real possibility he does. And I think the Bucs will definitely hope that he does, because if he does, against this really tough Patriots front, these Mike Vrabel teams, man, are so aggressive. We'll talk about it a little further down the line here, but getting a guy like that, a tone setter, Baker Mayfield says, he's one of the tone setters. Graham Barton says he's one of our enforcers, right? And without Goedeke and Cody Mauch, the team doesn't really have anyone like that on the offensive line. So Goedeke's a really, really valuable sort of player to come back to this team. And if it is true and he is in fact ready to play Sunday, that's going to be big.
Yeah, it would be huge. The run game, pass blocking, obviously for keeping Baker clean, even just
Right.
For Baker's psyche back there in the backfield. Anyways,
Yeah.
if he's having to scramble out, he's gonna know where Goedeke's gonna be. Just having that experience of playing with each other, and he's done okay with Heck in there, but obviously that has kind of slipped over the past weeks. We haven't been able to see those scrambles from Baker that we were seeing earlier in the season, or him looking a little bit more inconsistent.
Yeah.
Because he can't really get into a rhythm himself. So those things can all be improved just by inserting Goedeke right back into that offensive line unit. I think it could benefit them. You're not going up against the strongest, perhaps pass rushing unit here in the New England Patriots coming up, but it's still a challenge. And having him there is not going to, be detrimental to you at all. It'll still be an elevation of what you've been working with in Charlie Heck.
Big time.
But mentioning the other guys, there's been some developments here. Not anything big or major.
Listen, guys, I know you all have Bucky Irving on your fantasy team. I get that. I know you want to know when he's coming back. I get that. Todd is giving us nothing on this front. They're running, apparently. There's an update. We don't know where or when or how, but they are. Todd Bowles has been really, really, really tight on Godwin and Irving's injuries. Remember, it was supposed to originally be a few weeks for Irving and Godwin, and now Irving has missed 4 games. Godwin has missed 3. There's a potential here that Irving could miss more, that Godwin could miss more, and by that point they'd be outside of the IR window if you wanted to put them on IR. We'd be past the 4 games they would have sat on there. So it's a shoulder and foot for Irving. We got a little bit of an indication early on in this process that the shoulder was the worst of the 2, and there's so many things. There's so many things that could be wrong with that. We got told that he's still no contact on his shoulder, Irving, obviously. So I don't know, man. I don't know. You would have hoped after the bye they'd be well rested enough. Todd Bowles seemed to be like, maybe they could still practice this week, but I mean they've had the bye week basically. So if you're not coming back on the Wednesday after you've had a whole week off, I would be surprised if you just kind of showed up and were limited. But I don't know if they think it's like a gaming the system thing or if they think it's like letting your opponent know what's happening sort of thing. But they've been really, really tightly guarded on these two. The updates don't really come. They're coming along is what we get a lot. But we don't know, guys. We
We'll
don't
see
know.
how it heals type deal.
Yeah, we'll see. Todd said we'll see what tomorrow brings. I don't know. We will. That's true. We will.
We will.
It's tough, man. They're being very, very tight on it, and it's really hard to tell exactly where they're at. This could be one more week or a few more weeks. Todd has always been very secretive about that. He has to say that players are sore, and that could mean that they're just sore or that they're about to have surgery or they're out for the year. So it's tough, man. It's real tough. Hopefully we'll see those two back soon. That was the indication we kind of got before the bye week, and it didn't turn out that way in the first day. And just to really clarify right before I hop off this, guys, when players are coming back, sometimes they will be on the side at practice working with a trainer. Bucky and Chris are not outside at practice, meaning that they are rehabbing indoors. They're not even ready to work on the side with the trainer in
When is the
beginning the
last
process
time
of
that you
getting
saw
back.
them outside at one Buck place?
Ooh, it would have had to have been
Over a
right
month
after.
ago?
Remember, so remember, Irving played the whole Eagles game, right?
When he was hurt.
Right, and Godwin played the whole Seahawks game,
Correct.
right? So then afterward, they had presumably aggravated the respective injuries. It's a fibula for Godwin, the same leg that he had dislocated last year against the Baltimore Ravens.
That is.
We saw Irving very briefly in crutches the practice after that Philly game, and
Mhm.
like it was in the indoor practice facility. They're doing a walkthrough Wednesday. I don't think we've seen him anywhere since then, and Godwin not either. And they're in the building and they're rehabbing. I believe that, but it's we had a timetable, then we didn't, then we did, then we didn't again. So we'll just have
Yeah,
to wait, guys. We'll have to wait. I know if he's in your dynasty league, put him on IR.
there you go.
If he's not, if it's a redraft, you just hold on, guys. But I don't know,
Well,
man. It's tough.
that's it bodes well because I guess that the report that came out is that Bucky is the report from Bowles is Bucky and Godwin are they're running at this point or they're healthy enough to run, which that's a good sign, specifically when you're
It
talking
is
about for Godwin and the fibula thing, which that
right.
was all him kind of what's the word I'm looking for? He was kind of making up for the injury with portions of his fibula, which is what caused this whole injury to begin with. Whatever, and so that's kind of a mixed ball of who knows
Yeah.
what. Is he going to come back and do the same thing, and he's going to re-injure it, or is he going to at least trust it a little
Yeah.
bit and then potentially risk re-injuring that ankle that he injured last season, and then which would be brutal considering where he is at in his career. And then you've got it would be good for Bucky, hey, he's running, so that ankle's fine. The problem seems to be with the shoulder, no contact, right? That's what Bull said today.
Yeah.
Yeah, no contact yet. So that shows that there's a problem with a bigger problem with the shoulder ultimately. And if you
Which
follow
is what we've been made to understand.
right, and
Yeah.
if you follow any of the ex doctors, ex fantasy doctors out on X out there on social media, they're worried
Which
about that
at
shoulder.
your own peril.
At
Yeah.
your own peril, yes, but they are, a little bit more educated on the subject than myself or you.
Right.
But they're concerned about the shoulder too. Possibly it might have gotten dislocated. Which could, if you don't let it heal properly, let it rehab properly, could end up, in a torn labrum or something of the sort that you're going to have off-season surgery with. He
Yeah.
might have a labrum injury, currently in his shoulder that can we get it to a point to where it's not that painful and you can still keep that balance? So it really
Right.
kind of depends on the severity of it. Again, we don't know the severity
Yeah.
of that shoulder injury at the moment. For Bucky, Chris, I feel like they're going to be very, very precautious with where he's at, considering, the delicacy that does go on with his injury that he suffered last season. And then Haason, I feel like he's probably going to be the next guy back before, Godwin or Bucky at this point.
We were told he has an ankle sprain. In theory, that's not that bad, but again, we don't know the severity. We don't even know, guys. Just to put this into perspective, we don't know what happened to Luke Goedeke's foot. We don't know what the exact injury is. We don't know what he did to it. He hurt it, and he was out for 6 games. And now he's about to come back. So we'll probably ask him about that because a lot of those guys are fine just telling you after the fact. But it just goes to show that when it comes to injuries with this team in particular, they really don't want to tell you anything about it. So see how it goes.
Yeah, they don't. Reddick is probably going to be back sooner rather than later before those other 2 guys. Luke, potentially this week. Luke, probably first one back even before these other 3 guys. But that is your injury update. We truly do appreciate you guys hanging in there with us. If you guys are watching on Facebook, please head over to YouTube. Hit that like, subscribe.
And we'll know if you don't.
Comments. Ask us any questions, guys. If you guys are sitting there with us live now, shoot us some questions. We love to answer those. If they're relevant to what we're talking about at the moment, we'll go ahead and hit them. If not, and we think it's a good question to go ahead and hit at the end, we will also do that for you guys. So thank you for tuning in. But with that being said, we've got the injuries out of the way. River, we didn't have a game last week. We didn't do anything at the trade deadline. Luke Goedeke could be returning. We've got the Patriots on deck, the first of a 3-game stretch that is extremely brutal for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
At least you're at home for this one, right? So you're getting the Pats at home, but then you have to go on the road to Buffalo, then all the way across the country to LA to face the Rams. So first test, potentially against this year's MVP, probably leading the MVP candidacy race right now in Drake Maye. Not a whole lot of guys. Not a whole lot of big name guys to talk about. You've got Stefon Diggs there, but when he's looking like Minnesota Vikings Stefon Diggs, I guess you can talk about him. But outside of that, kind of doing it by committee, getting things done, great offensive line, solid defense, could use some help in certain areas, but overall, really good roster. Will definitely be a good test for the Buccaneers, I believe. But luckily, they're coming off their bye week again.
Yeah, I've been looking at the advanced metrics here. I told Caleb this before the show. I went through Sumer Brain, which is Sumer Sports' fantastic sort of database that they've got now in beta, and I poured through it to see if there was anything that Drake Maye was not good at the Bucs could exploit in this matchup, and I determined that he's really good at everything. I mean, if you go through here, 4th out of 45 quarterbacks in EPA per play against the blitz, which Todd Bowles loves to do that a lot, right? We know that. And the deep ball, 2nd out of 25 qualified quarterbacks, 5.4 air yards per attempt. So he's pushing the ball down people frequently, and he's hitting it very frequently. Against man coverage, 6th among qualified quarterbacks. Against zone coverage, 4th. He can attack any part of your defense extremely well. I mean, you look at their overall stats and team rankings, right? Their passing offense, completion percentage-wise, number 1 in the league. Yards per pass, number 2 in the league. Right? Pass yards a game, number 9, top 10. They really love to attack you through the air. So that's something to absolutely look out for. And their run game's not bad either, right? So pretty tough to go up against there. And you're going to have to beat them on defense. On their defense, I should say. So on offense, it's quite their defense. Look at their big weaknesses here. The biggest one, Caleb, you wrote about for an article on BucsGameday.com. So if you guys want to go there for a more in-depth explanation on this, you definitely should and read Caleb's stuff. But red zone scoring percentage for touchdowns, you look at team rankings here, 63.16%. Or sorry, that's Tampa Bay. 75% flat, and that's the worst in the league. So when you get into the end zone or the red zone against the Patriots and you have them inside the 20 there, you're likely to score on them. So getting into that position will demand that the Bucs have to convert on your 2nd and longs, get into 3rd and shorts a lot and march down the field at a slow, methodical pace. And then you can really take advantage of their defense. It's pretty stout up front, but once you get into the red zone, it kind of falls apart there. So that's something to look at with the Patriots as well. And their secondary, their defense, Opponent pass play percentage, 26% or 26th. Completion percentage, 69.10%. That's 28th in the league. And opponent yards per game, pass yards per game, 223.6. So they are able to be passed on, essentially. And we saw the Falcons do that fairly well last week. And then they scored in the red zone, too. It's just that if their kicker had just made one more kick, they might have perhaps gone into overtime with that Patriots team. But then they ended up taking the L. So attacking their secondary, getting them into those positions where the red zone is at, and being able to punch it in. And I mean, you look at the Bucs red zone scoring percentage, 50% right now in the year. That's 26th in the league. They gotta be better at that. So improving on that, and then I guess the Saints that 9 play across 2 drives sort of thing. You got to be able to punch the ball in better in order to exploit this Patriots defense. So that's going to be the key: getting into the red area, scoring in the red area. You'll be able to put up some points.
Absolutely. D does not agree with your take. I would like to know the level of defenses he has played so far before I call him a hero, as well as second half game stats.
I mean, that's always something to really put in perspective, but they've played some decent units, right?
That's a good argument. I mean, that's a good argument. I'm not sure what New England's schedule has looked like up to this point.
They played Atlanta, and Atlanta's pretty stout.
They
played Cleveland. They played Cleveland, and Cleveland's pass rush is absolutely brutal. And like I mentioned, he's really good against the blitz. Todd Bowles loves to blitz a lot, and so they'll have to find more ways to disrupt him in the pocket there. So getting pressure like Cleveland often does didn't really work out for him there. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be tough. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. Trying to stop a guy of that's that good is really difficult. But the Buccaneers this offseason made a concerted effort to make sure that their secondary was in a place for risks such as this. Benjamin Morrison has been playing well in spot play. Zion McCollum's played well, very sticky coverage. Jamel Dean is catching multiple interceptions in a season. And then you've got the rookie sensation, Jacob Parrish, playing
He's been excellent. He's been excellent.
Back there. So it's going to be a great matchup. I think that's what I'm most fun. Like, it's going to be the most fun to watch that. What is Drake Maye going to be able to do against the Todd Bowles defense that he's never faced before, against a secondary that can be sticky, that can turn the ball over and at every level of the field.
Right.
Much. And then if you shut down the passing game, run game, albeit it's okay, it's not the greatest behind Ramondre Stevenson. Is he playing? Is he hurt? I don't know. He's always like either hurt.
He was on the injury report today, I believe.
Okay, so we're not 100% on that.
There's a few guys like Kayshon Boudreaux's also there. Like we'll Thursday and Friday we'll get a better idea who's playing for the Patriots.
Yeah, and so you'll have to watch Kayshon Boudreaux. That'll be kind of a job for Antoine Winfield Jr. I would imagine, because he's kind of that deep ball threat there. When you look at what Drake Maye and the Pats offense does. But going back to that red zone stat that you had mentioned, I wrote about on BucsGameday.com. So we appreciate you guys going over there and reading about it.
Be sure to do it.
Being able to be effective in the red zone, I think a lot of teams that are effective in the red zone use their tight ends a lot, right? They use their tight ends in the red zone. They get their tight ends involved in some way, whether that's, directly in the play, whether that's catching the pass, doing whatever. Sometimes it's running a rub route, setting one of those unintentional picks. There sometimes just getting a chip and then or a tight end screen, whatever it may be. It's effective usually in the red zone. This brings up a question from Richard here on YouTube. Can this be a game where we see Cade Otton score his first touchdown of the season, given the fact that the Patriots aren't necessarily that good when they are backed up inside the 20?
Yeah, I mean, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Being able to utilize Otton as a weapon, especially it's looking like you're not going to have Chris Godwin again this week, right? So he was also quite a big red zone threat in his heyday, but with these injuries, he's been out of the lineup. Emeka Egbuka can do that as well, but being able to find him and be creative with him will be pretty important against this Patriots defense. And we talked about this too, Richard. If Luke Goedeke's back, you have to use tight ends to chip edge rushers a lot less, right, in the pass game. So being able to have him free to run routes and actually catch passes, that could be a pretty big dimension to the offense that Josh Grizzard hasn't been able to quite use as much given these offensive line injuries. And now you can. So this could indeed be a pretty big game for Cade Otton if they want to use him that way. They do got to figure out something in the red zone because it's been a bit of a weak point all year. They've had some stretches where it's worked out pretty well. That Seahawks game, they seem to be firing well in the red zone. And then in other games, like against the Saints, against the 49ers, it was tough for them too. Against the Jets, it was tough in the red zone. So they've had these problems a little bit all year. And then they got to figure out a way to really reliably get in, especially against a defense like this and the Patriots, who has a lot of trouble keeping teams out of the end zone once you get there. And Cade Otton could be one of those keys.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I see this one potentially being a shootout, something like we saw in Seattle where it's like, oh, it just doesn't stop, it's just constant, action all game long. You're going to have the number one broadcast team there, I believe for Fox, if I'm not mistaken, there with Tony Romo and
Yeah.
is it Aikman that's there with Romo? Usually,
No.
it's Romo and
I don't remember who's the other one, but Romo will be on the call.
Romo will be on the call, so you'll have your 18 there for Fox.
I don't know, Jim. Yeah, is it Jim Nantz? Is it Jim Nantz?
There you go. I don't know, Jim. Yeah. So
I wanted to address one thing before we did end up going to the next one, Caleb, because I believe Richard also asked how fast does Drake Maye get the ball out. I went to PFF real quick here, and you can grade players by time to throw on their advanced metrics. Interesting you mentioned this. Among qualifying quarterbacks, there's 39 qualifying quarterbacks here with the dropbacks allotted. 31st here in the league in time to throw, which is pretty interesting. So he's currently looking at a 3.07 seconds. So he actually takes longer to throw than usual. He can beat the blitz really well, though, so trying to hurry him up will be on Todd Bowles' sort of checklist for Sunday.
right.
But he seems pretty poised despite taking a little bit longer to get the ball out than most quarterbacks.
Do you think it could be one of those games where Todd Bowles is going to have to find some unique way, or it has to be a very obvious situation to where it's got to be a developed play on the offensive side of the ball for the Pats for him to call one of those like Todd Bowles blitzes?
Yeah, and the Todd Bowles defense, as some of you may or may not know, is kind of centered around that. You bring the four guys up front, and then you bring a secret fifth person. And whoever the secret fifth person is different from play to play on a blitz, right? It could be a safety like Tyke Smith. It could be a nickel corner like Jacob Parrish. He's racked up some sacks himself this year. We have seen Servastier Dennis get downhill. We've seen Levante David do some really good work with some stunts and blitzes. Todd is not afraid to send anybody. He's not afraid to put Vita Vea in coverage to make up for it.
For
And
sure.
I don't know if Drake Maye has faced a team kind of like that. The only other really aggressive blitzer I can think of offhand that kind of does something similar is Brian Flores with the Minnesota Vikings, and hasn't played the Minnesota Vikings this year and will not, actually. So this is going to be one of the more really blitz-heavy teams. It's on Todd Bowles to be really creative to figure out how to send that pressure toward Maye and also not get too in the weeds about it. You don't want to constantly send blitzes on third down that he's going to kill you on, because he's been really good against the blitz so far.
He's been pretty good about not getting excited with the blitz this year. There's times and you're like, why does he keep doing it? Or like, why does he stop doing it? Or whatever it may be, and it just drives you insane. This year it feels like he's been very he's done it at the right times.
He's got a lot of personality he didn't have last year. I mean, injuries to the secondary were just quite frankly unfathomable last year.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, fortunately, knock on proverbial wood, especially with this team this year, you've got McCollum, you've got Parrish, you've got Morrison and Dean all playing next week. So you've got all your guys there, and he's able to do some really creative stuff knowing that he has those guys there. So he's going to have to do it with Maye. I can't stress it enough, guys. He's the MVP front runner right now. He's playing. I think he's the best quarterback in football at the moment. Getting him off his game is going to be really hard. But that's what Todd Bowles gets paid to do. And he's probably going to give Maye some looks he hasn't seen before in his career yet. Because like he mentioned, I don't know if he played the Vikings last year. They had Flores then. but he definitely has not played Todd Bowles yet. So that's going to be a different look, whole different sort of thing that he's never seen before. So that'll be fun.
So I know he's not a rookie anymore, but like I forget what there's like some crazy like record or stat out there. It's like first time quarterbacks against Todd Bowles and
oh yeah, rookie killer. And by the way, he didn't play in Minnesota last year, so I don't know if he's played a team as ridiculously blitz heavy as the Bucs, because Tampa Bay and Minnesota are the two big bad wolves when it comes to that sort of defensive style. So I don't think he's seen this yet. So that'll be fun. That'll be fun.
It'll definitely be fun. I hope he has a decent game because I do like Drake Maye. I like what the Patriots got building over there, but I don't want
to know. They're a fun team. It's hard not to root for them after being bad for so long, right? And what Vrabel's done, getting fired from Tennessee for whatever reason they did that, and coming to New England where he played football and doing this. It's awesome.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Vrabel. So I'm like, what are your thoughts? We didn't talk about Vrabel at all. I mean, how good of a job has he done? He's done a fantastic job. I mean, it's with the way everything went down in Tennessee and then Nashville, it was just so weird, so awkward. So like, why would you do this? But I mean, it's pretty much in line with what Tennessee has done. AJ Brown, just to name a few. But yeah, I mean, Vrabel's done a fantastic job. He's going to have these guys ready to play, right? Like he's going to have these guys ready to play one way or another.
Vrabel never has his guys not ready to play. They're going to play hard. They're so physical. You guys saw what Dan Campbell's Lions did to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? They ate kneecaps. That's what Vrabel does. All of his teams are so physical. They play so hard. They rally to the ball. They're just so aggressive. And playing these teams can be a battle of attrition as much as it is a battle of tactics. So they're going to be in for one. Now, I talked with Graham Barton today, and Graham told me we don't look at it any differently because everybody in the NFL has got a really stout defensive line, right? He said
Buccaneer answer.
Yeah, but he said he's got a tally of when he walks into the room, and then the coaches go, it starts up front, so it does. But man, these guys are tough. I mean, their cornerback, they got Carlton Davis playing cornerback. Bucs fans know how ridiculously tough Carlton Davis is to go up against and to play, and how much of a pain that is. That type of energy is prevailing across the entirety of this event, so it's going to be grind.
But that would be huge. Like, that's going to be huge for Mecca Igbokwe to have Chris and Mike in his ear right now for this game.
For sure. But if you guys remember, Crazy Paul here.
Jamel might knows how he ticks too. So I don't know.
But Crazy Paul here, you guys might remember, someone asked Jamar Chase who the toughest corner he's faced in the NFL is, and he said Carlton Davis, because he's just the jam at the line and the physicality he presses with is just nightmarish. Yeah, so that's going to be a lot of fun for Emeka Egbuka, but that type of intensity is what the entire Patriots team plays for. On offense, on defense, they're going to hit you. They're going to play hard. These are really good type of teams to be a good test against a team like Tampa Bay that wants to go far in the playoffs. If you can endure this, you can endure anything, right? It's an AFC team, so losing doesn't really matter that much, but proving that you can beat the MVP candidate right now in a really tough team at home, bring them here off the bye, well-rested. If you can come out with that good intensity that you need to despite the week off, you're going to do good things. So I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a hard game. And I think, honestly, I mean, Buffalo away and LA away are brutal. But this might be one of the harder games of this 3-game stretch, to be perfectly honest with you. It's a tough team on a roll with a MVP caliber quarterback coming into your stadium, looking to get a win. And you got to do everything you can to make sure it doesn't happen.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's going to be a fun one to watch there. I wish they would have flexed it. I don't think it can be flexed at this point.
No. It's also a CBS game. They don't flex CBS games a lot.
Yeah. But there's your reasoning behind that, folks. It would have been awesome to watch that, but we're gonna be able to get to watch it anyways. It is on CBS.
PM.
On CBS, not ESPN on YouTube TV. So
no, exactly.
You don't have to go to this website and click whatever and sign
We're
up for
not
it.
going to condone sailing the seven seas here on Here Are the Cannons.
Oh my gosh.
However you want to watch the Buccaneers is not our problem. Yeah.
That's all you, all
Yeah,
you.
that's all
But
you.
quick question here before we go ahead and log off, River. Just two questions, actually. It's a two-part. How do the Buccaneers win this game, and how would the Buccaneers go on to lose this one?
Oh, good questions. You win by playing methodical football on offense. Um, Baker Mayfield calls them back-breaking drives, but I think putting yourself in a lot of third and short situations and converting is going to make a Mike Vrabel coach team that flies around and hits hard, pretty tired and fatigued. Getting into the red zone, and once you get into the red zone, having some good play calls up your sleeve because you really want to take advantage of how bad this Patriots team has been there, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are a bend and then snap defense. They're not a bend, don't break defense. So leading methodical, purposeful drives. Getting explosives is great too. I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. But I think controlling the clock, moving the football, that's going to involve a good run game, which you're going to need, especially with Luke Goedeke back. You might be able to do that. Getting into the red zone, exploiting that weakness, and scoring one after another. That's how you're going to beat this team. How are you going to lose? Letting Drake Maye cook, basically. Not being disciplined. He does not turn the ball over that much. And he's not one to do it too often either. If you look at some more PFF analytics for you guys, turnover-worthy plays are plays that they think that were worthy of a potential turnover, like a drop pick, a fumble recovered by yourself, etc. As it stands right now, when you look at Drake Maye, take a look here. He is not one to do that, right? He is 2.6%, the 12th best in the league. So he takes care of the ball,
Pretty dang
really
good.
stout. Getting those turnovers would be important, but don't count on it. So be a disciplined defense. Make sure to put everything in front of you because he loves a deep ball. Don't let guys like Stefon Diggs get behind you in the secondary. Keep the communications really tight. If that happens to where it's a failure and guys like Tyke Smith and Antoine Winfield Jr. aren't on the same page, this guy will make you pay.
Yeah.
So being a disciplined secondary, I think, is going to be the key to winning this game. Making sure May doesn't completely air raid you, and honestly, guys, he might. 'Cause he has to everybody so far.
Mhm.
So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, we'll see how things unfold in Tampa Bay on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Be sure to join with us and stick with us throughout the week on BucsGameday.com, where we'll have all kinds of
Do
coverage
it.
leading up to the game, during the game, before the game, after the game, on BucsGameday.com. We'll also have digital content for you guys here on YouTube. Probably do a post game as well as a little halftime reel or short there on YouTube for you guys as well, just to give you a quick little update. So be sure that you are following us, subscribe to us on YouTube. Be sure you have those notifications turned on as well, so you are notified when we are live for those halftime updates or for that post game content as well. We truly do appreciate you guys tuning in every single week with us. Tune in next week as we will be live for Hear the Cannons every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. River?
Fire the cannons. The soundboard.